for another episode of Coffee Chat Live for MSPs, where we talk about whatever we want. There's probably like no structure at all, and things loosely related to MSPs. So, today we have a special guest, Aidan O'Connell. Aidan is he's in a new role at Scout. He was an intern at Scout 3 years ago. I remember when he first came in, and now he is on our sales engineering team. So we'll be working a lot more directly with our partners and their customers. But before we kick that off, we were talking about COVID haircuts, or pre-COVID haircuts a little bit in the waiting room. And, I managed to pull something up. Now, this is a real haircut that I gave myself before my wife was graduating from, or like her virtual graduation ceremony from her master's program. I was like, let me clean myself up and give myself a cut. So I cut my hair, and then I took a picture of myself just to see like how it looked, because wanted to see if it didn't look the same as the mirror. And this is what like my successful cut was.
As long as you go short enough, it's okay.
Yeah, there's a little patchy here. I think I have some other angles of the photos where it just didn't really do it. Like this length is a lot longer than this length, and it just wasn't right. And then the beard, I just didn't even like. There's just a lot going on here. I wasn't really ready for it. But yeah. Just wanted to share that with everyone. Really set the tone of a strange tone for this coffee chat today. But Aidan O'Connell, why don't you tell us a little bit about your journey these past 3 years, graduating college and joining the team, and maybe touch on too, if you would like, on any haircuts you gave yourself back in the first half of 2020 and how those went.
I'll start with the haircut, or really the lack thereof of haircuts. It was like when we first like spring into like summer 2020. I was like, I hadn't tried to grow facial hair really at all in years. I gave up on it, but I'm like, if there was ever a time to try it and see what happens, now is the time. And I had the worst mustache you could ever possibly imagine. I just kept it, and every time I was on FaceTime with my mom and dad, they'd be like, I know you don't go see anybody, but like you still FaceTime with us. Like, can you please shave the mustache? Every time I was like, I'm sticking with it, but eventually I had to give up. But that's pretty much it as far as weird quarantine facial hair stories go. As far as my time here at Scout, now Barracuda, like Jimmy said, I had interned here. It was 3 years ago, so summer of 2019 and also summer of 2018, and then graduated from the University of Florida with a computer science degree and then a business admin minor. Pretty much went to work for Scout right after. In January 2020, was in the office for 2-ish months probably before we all know how that story went, but continue to work into the with them remotely. Since then, it was actually not a bad gig. I had a lot of friends who like graduated at the same time, and by the time they were actually starting their jobs, they were fully online, which is I feel like it could always be hard getting into your first position in the online world when everyone's still figuring it out. But I was fortunate enough to have the 2 internships under my belt and the 2 months in the office. I kind of knew where I needed to go to get what I needed for various different things, which is always nice. I started as, I think my official title was like associate support engineer, but really it was like a kind of DevOps position for our then pretty small software engineering team. Supporting a lot of moves in like our infrastructure, Kubernetes and cloud and AWS and all that good stuff. Spent some time reworking our data pipelines, so on and so forth. Helped get like a lot of our ticket integrations up and running off the ground. So that's like our ticket integrations with ConnectWise, Autotask, and ServiceNow. Since then, those have been reworked like 2 or 3 different times. Right now, our software engineering team is putting a lot of elbow grease into those, and excited to see what happens with that. Then after about a year or so, I was just, went from associate to a normal DevOps position, and mostly spent my time supporting our switch over between from FortiSIM to ElasticSIM. And that was a big project that we've been working on for last year, and it's been making a lot of headway as of late. I think we're closing in on the final stretches. At least that's what I gathered. But after the 2-ish years spent in the DevOps engineering position, sales engineering was always something that interested me as a career path, and I saw that we had some openings. Actually, it was our Carol who pointed it out to me. I didn't even notice, but I figured I would go ahead and shoot over an application, and here I am now. Just started 2 days ago, so pretty.
It's crazy, like how much you've done in such a small amount of time. I think like this morning. This is LinkedIn news. Let me share my screen here. All about 600,000 unfilled cyber jobs in the U.S. and how they can't fill all the cyber jobs and blah 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 blah. And
yeah, so let's just force them all to change the passwords, and let's just give everybody a...
Oh, we had a little termination. It's okay. So what tips do you have? Like, how did you get into cybersecurity? Like when you're in college, do you have any tips for someone who might want to start a cyber career or anything? Like we got 600,000 jobs to fill in the U.S. alone. So how do we, what can we do to, get more students in or people switching careers in? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so my UF had a couple different computer science. Obviously, a lot of computer science classes, but specifically cybersecurity courses. And I had one professor who I had early on who taught one, and I took his pretty basic security class my last year. That was after I'd already interned at Scout. So when I saw after interning at Scout that they also had some coursework, I got into that. I think a lot of it is just showing that interest, probably. Like you said, there's the 600,000 jobs open. I don't think that's for, the talent is good enough. It's just whether or not the talent exists. So I think as long as you're putting your foot forward and you're into it, and I think there's a lot of obviously open positions there. So presumably, as long as you have that kind of go-getter attitude, and cybersecurity is something that interests you and you care about, I think that's probably the most important first step. Other than that, it's also just you have to constantly keep up with a lot of it. It's an ever-changing field. Like I was just talking to Jimmy the other day when he was down. Apparently, one of the big things he took away from their trip down to IT Nation is just how much of the knowledge on the subject matter has grown since the last couple conventions he would have went to in 2019. And I think it just goes to show how much there is left to learn in the field, and it's still something that a lot of people are getting caught up on. So kind of lost my train of thought there, but basically I think one of the other things, like I said, is just constantly keeping up with the field. It's constantly changing, but fortunately there's we have our Slack channels here, and that kind of show any kind of emerging threats or any news in the cybersecurity world, which as a team kind of makes it easier to keep up with everything. And if you ever fall behind, that's the last thing you want to do, because there's always some new threat out there that's gonna bite you in the butt if you're not prepared.
And Aiden, so you've lived both in Northeast. I don't know, were you in the city in New York or Connecticut or New
Yeah,
Jersey?
I was in the city, and then my family lives up in the middle of nowhere in Connecticut, so not too far.
And are you in Florida now, or are you back in the Northeast?
Yeah, I'm living in Miami now. I was kind of floating around, a bit of a nomad for the first year or so during COVID. I spent some time, I went back to live with my brother at UF for 6 months. And then some of my friends who I was initially going to move back to New York with, they lived in Miami and they had an open room. So I was like, hey, I'll just move in with them until we eventually go back to New York. Once the, full-time remote news came in, then a lot of my connections and my friends and, my extended family all live down here. So, I didn't really see too much need to go back to New York, so I'm sticking down here for at least the next year or so. But
so
it seems to me
winter and holiday season.
Yeah,
do you prefer the weather, or do you prefer the allure of the giant Christmas tree in Rock Center? What, are you missing it? Are you missing the Northeast right now,
do miss it. I was just up in the city for Thanksgiving. and it was like my first time going back to the city. Really, I had like flown in there and then just like went up to Connecticut, but never like actually really like gotten food, or I went to a concert there the other week, and I definitely miss the city a lot. It's definitely somewhere I could see myself going back to further down the line, but for the time being, Miami is where I'm based. It seems to me like they're really trying to, at least the mayor down here is really trying to push to make it like the next big tech hub. I'm always getting, different notifications for them doing some kind of, I don't even know what you would call it. It's like Miami is still like influencer based. Like they're trying to make it's like cybersecurity or like computer science influencers, which is just like a weird way to put it for me. But that's usually how they brand it. And they're constantly going on down here. I've attended a few, but it seems to be making a big push. It'll be interesting to see how that goes in the next couple of years.
Thanks, Aiden. And I didn't get to do my spiel in the beginning, but we try to keep this to 15 minutes. It's the anti-webinar. We don't like to get too in depth in topics. So I just want to give some other people some time before we wrap up. John Kennedy, how are you doing today?
Doing okay. Glad to be back on the Coffee Chat Live. Missed the last couple or so. Had to take my daughter to North Carolina for surgery.
Oh no. Well, we welcome you.
It was
back.
unexpected surgery and kind of a good thing. And we're going back this month for another one because it's one eye and now the next eye.
Oh wow. You have to go all the way up to North Carolina. Wow. Must be.
We wanted the best surgeon. So Duke Eye Center has the preeminent surgeon worldwide on this particular issue.
Well, she'll be in our thoughts for sure, John.
Thanks.
David, how are you?
Alive, vertical, taking nourishment. We're doing well. Actually, official numbers came in. River Run has had their best month ever again in November of sales. So yeah, we're rocking and rolling. Family is good and healthy. Got a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old now, and the wife is all good. Yeah, it's positivity in here in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Positivity and coffee.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Well, Jared, Daniel, how are you guys doing?
Yeah, good. I'll just jump in to share my COVID haircut story, take it back to the beginning. So I actually had to renew my license in the middle of COVID. Barbershops weren't open, and now I have a license with hair, past my eyes almost. And I'm gonna have to keep that one till I'm about 30. So it's my haircut story.
I guess I'm obligated to share another slightly more harrowing haircut story. My girlfriend at the time during quarantine used to make fun of like these things. She'd call them like sideburns, and she'd call it like Martin Van Buren as a joke. So I was just like, and they drive me crazy. So one day I went to like cut them myself, and I almost Van Gogh'd myself. That was an interesting day. So it was all good. It was all good. I didn't actually.
The classic almost Van Gogh, of course. Well, we'll close it up with that. We're right at the 15-minute mark. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Aiden, thank you for sharing your story, and welcome to your new position. We're excited to work with you more. And thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thanks for having me.